Hi, today I'm going to be reading Chicken Sunday by Patricia Polacco. I really enjoyed this story. It brought back a lot of good memories for me growing up in the city. Even this little dedication page, it's dedicated to Stuart Grinnell Washington with love. And this is what it looked like when I was growing up in the city of Detroit. We had lots of wires everywhere and people out walking around, and everyone's, in this picture, everyone's dressed in their Sunday best. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony we had performed in their backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptists. Their grandma, Eula May Walker, was my grandma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Babushka is the Russian word for grandmother. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We'd walk to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though we've been churching up like decent folks ought to, she'd say, I don't want you to step in front of one of those too fast cars. You'll be as flat as a hen's tongue. She squeezed my hand. Flat as a hen's tongue. I haven't heard that one before. When we passed Mr. Kadinsky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she'd sigh and we'd walk on. So if you notice what they're wearing, the ladies are wearing hats. Miss Eula is wearing, Eula May is wearing pearls, and she's got her gloves on. And when I was a kid, we did wear gloves and hats to church, usually probably only Easter Sunday, but we definitely dressed up for church. We called those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always fried chicken for dinner. There'd be collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob, and fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried air along with it. She took a deep breath. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something we already knew. That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadinsky's window is the most beautiful I ever did see, she said thoughtfully. The 3 of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. And I love how the illustrations here, they have the whole big plate with all the food that they're eating, and she's got all these pictures in the background of all her loved ones on the side table here. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin. The 3 of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we had been saving for weeks. If we're going to get that hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we are going to need a lot more than this, I announced. Maybe we should ask Mr. Kadinsky if we could sweep up his shop or something and earn the rest of the money, Stuart said. I don't know, Winnie said fearfully. He's such a strange old man. He never smiles at anyone. He always looks so mean. We all agreed that it was worth a try anyway. The next day we took a shortcut down the alley in back of his hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadinsky glared straight at us. You there, he yelled. Why do you kids do things like this? It wasn't us, Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadinsky wouldn't listen to us. All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother, he shouted as he wagged his finger in Stuart's face. And I remember the alley in my grandparents' house where they lived. That was a great house because where I lived we had no alley, but back then they had an alley and that was really cool. Miss Eula was waiting in her living room for us. Miss Eula, we didn't throw those eggs, I sobbed. Some big boys did, Stuart sputtered. What were you doing at the back of his shop in the first place, she asked. We knew that we couldn't tell her the truth, so we just stood there and cried. She looked at us for a long while. Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows that I brought you children up to always tell the truth. If you say you didn't do it, then I believe you. It's too bad, though, she went on to say. That poor man has suffered so much in his life. He deserves more than eggs thrown at him. You know, he thinks you threw the eggs. You'll have to show him that you are good people. You'll have to change his mind somehow. In my kitchen the next day, we thought and thought. How can we win him over when he thinks that we threw those eggs? Stuart asked. He doesn't even like us, Winston chirped. Eggs, I said quietly. Eggs? Stuart asked. Eggs, I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel with a wooden handle, and some packets of red, yellow, and black dye. Now I want you to see, we're at the girl's house now. We don't know her name. Now look over here. In her house, she has this big old thing here, and that's called a samovar. That in Russia, they use that to heat up the water for the tea. So it looks like they're very serious about their tea in Russia. But it gives us a glimpse into her house and what her decorations are like. Mom helped me show the boys how to decorate eggs the way my bubby had taught us. So her bubby, her grandmother, her bubby, also lots of different names for grandmothers. Her babushka, you know, in Russian, grandmother. Probably you have different names for your grandma too. You might have an oma or a abuela or different names. But so here, her grandmother had died a while before, but she had taught her how to make these eggs. She taught her the way they do it in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells with hot wax, then dyed them, and finally melted the wax patterns off. We put the eggs in a basket, and even though we were afraid, marched into Mr. Kadinsky's shop and put them on the counter. So here they are working away, and you can see how very intricate it is, and they're working very diligently to do all these different designs. He raised his eyebrows and glowered at us. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. Glowered means he gave him a stern look. Spasiba, he said softly. That means thank you in Russian. Piansky eggs, he said as he looked closely. I haven't seen these since I left my homeland. We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Mr. Kadinsky, we told him. He looked at us for a minute. Well, then you have great courage to be here. Chutzpah, you have chutzpah. Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled into a warm smile. Come have some tea with me. So look at how beautiful these eggs turned out. He's really admiring them. And they remind him of the country that he came from, which is the same country that the grandmother came from, apparently, or thereabouts. We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life. We told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask about doing odd jobs to earn some extra money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts sank. I'll tell you this, he said thoughtfully. These eggs are as beautiful as my hats. Stuart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. It's almost Easter, he went on to say. I am sure that people would love these eggs. Set up a table and sell them right here in my shop. So we've got all these different kinds of hats on the wall. Here's the teapot. These are hat boxes. Hat boxes are round. And if you notice, here's this, look at this old sewing machine. In the next few days, we worked very hard. We made almost a dozen Piansky eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like, beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in one single day. Here's a sign for sale, real Ukrainian eggs. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, we counted our money. We had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came out from the back room holding a beautiful hat box, gift wrapped. Keep your money, children, he said softly. I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It is for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children, such good children. So he surprised them. When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. It's a very pretty hat, I must say. Our hearts sang along with the choir that Sunday. She looked so beautiful in that hat. When it was time for her solo, we knew that she was singing just for us. Her voice was like slow thunder and sweet rain. Everybody's all dressed up in their Easter Sunday best. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, "Oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead, on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken, bones, gravy and all, and pour it over my grave. So late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach right out and have me some." Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stewart, and I are grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kadinsky's shop once stood. I think of him often and his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula some time back, but every year we take some chicken soup up to Mountain View Cemetery and just do as she asked. Sometimes when we are especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain. So I really enjoyed this book. I thought one of the things that it brought out for me was happy memories of my childhood and my grandparents. So, you know, have a talk with your parents, your grandparents. Maybe you're even lucky enough to have great-grandparents. They've been through a lot of different things. Maybe some of them are not from this country. Maybe they were born somewhere else. Maybe they have some really interesting stories. She was lucky enough to have her grandmother, and then she had her second grandmother that lived just right next door. So enjoy your people in your family. Get to know them a little bit. Find out a little bit about them. What did they eat on Sundays? We used to go to my grandma's and have pot roast on Saturday. So I have great memories of that. So talk to your grandparents and your maybe even great-grandparents. They would love to talk to you, I'm sure. Hope you enjoyed this book. Thank you. Bye.